So when we are studying about feminist research methodology, it is very similar to what is done in social sciences research, but with the the idea behind feminist research methodology is to study it from the feminist perspective. Okay. In your syllabus for women's studies net, there are 4 main points given. Understanding feminist research. So we'll begin with that: concepts, debates, and limitations. So we'll go in the same sequence. So first of all, what is the concept of feminist research? So how social sciences have talked about research is to go from a very androcentric perspective, right? So when we are talking about feminist research methodologies, we are talking about research that is analyzes people and the social life, right? But it should be not limited to only men's perspective, but with women as gender category. Okay. But now increasingly, initially it was just from women, but now we have different other theories which we will look into a little later on. But there are other perspectives also, like we have post-modern theories, like queer theories that also include other categories, right? Not only women as category. But so here, these other theories are very important in feminist research, right? So the basic question into the feminist research methodology is about how we can make the traditional research, social sciences research, into a feminist research, right? So there are different kinds of approaches that are taken, that have been taken if we look at it in a historical, progression. So first, it was like add women approach, right? Like everywhere when we look at the development also, it is like add and stir, right? So in research, women as participants. So can only that make the research a feminist one? It cannot, right? So the important thing in a feminist research is to look into it from a lens that not only has women as sufferers or women as just one category, but to look into the different locations that they hold, the different power, their location in the power hierarchy also, right? And other identities which they possess as an individual in the society. Okay. So when we talk about research, there are three very important things which we will look into especially, like method, methodology, and epistemology. Okay. So what is a method? Can somebody just raise their hand and say? Or should I just assume that you don't know? Nalini, would you like to say? Anyone, please feel free to interact.
I guess Mehra and all very active and they will be interacting. Mehra, are you there? Please feel free. Whether your answer is right or not, RP will be correcting you. So it won't be
There is
something
nothing
bad.
right or wrong with anything, right?
Yeah. You can all speak.
Right or wrong. Yeah, please interact.
Somebody put it in the chat, way of doing something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Way of doing, right? It's a method. Okay. So when we are talking about it in terms of research, what is a research method? A research method is a technique that is used for gathering the evidence, right? We are now talking in terms of research methodology. Okay, feminist research methodology. So we will talk about research methods. So research methods are different techniques that are used for gathering the evidence. Okay. So can somebody talk about what is the research? I mean, this reminded me that I should ask about research also. So what is the basic understanding of research? Please type and let me know.
It's like investing about something on maybe some issues, topics.
Right. Right. And Jyotsna has also said deep study of any particular topic. Right. So there is a research, right? The process of inquiry and investigation to collect data. Right. So overall, the processes are involved in a research. So what are you trying to do? Is to find something, right? Research, right? You're searching for something. You're finding a solution for the problem, right? So in the same way, what is a research methodology? What do we understand about methodology, research methodology?
As just you have said that the methodology is a technique of researching something. So research methodology, according to me, will be then like researching on a particular topic with a proper technique and tools.
Not exactly. Research methodology is the theory. Okay. Methodology involves the theories, like this particular subject that we are studying is called feminist research methodology, right? Why? Because there are theories in like feminist theories that have evolved during the course of study that feminists have undertaken. Okay. So methodology is the theory of analysis of how the research should proceed. Okay. What is it? You can repeat with me in your, I mean, without opening your mics. Research methodology is the theory of analysis of how research should proceed. Okay. But what you want to say here, I mean, what I want to say here is that methodology involves theories of how you are going to analyze the particular topic or situation or any problem that you are going to study. Okay, that is methodology. Is it clear to everyone now? I hope it is clear. Now next is epistemology. So what is the basic understanding about epistemology? I'll give you. Okay, epistemology is okay. So what are you going to look into? You're going to look into the problems situation with some kind of a theory of understanding about who knows, what should be known, what is knowledge, right? Huh? So there are different things in epistemology, like who knows, the knower, right? When you're doing a research, you have a problem in mind. Like there are research questions, there are research problems, right? So there is a research problem that you are going to address through the research. So there is there are different approaches that you can take, right? So when we are talking about epistemology, what we are looking at is what is the overall theory of how the knowledge is present in the analysis of our topic, right? So the theory of knowledge is epistemology. Okay, like how knowledge should be understood, how it should be studied. Okay, so when we are talking about how it should be studied or what is knowledge itself, we are talking about who knows, the knower, right? Then what are the truths, like what we are talking about as truth, or the overall question that what counts as knowledge. Okay, In these lines like method, methodology, and epistemology, we'll talk about how feminist research has, in a way, customized it to become a feminist research method, methodology, and epistemology. Okay, so the first thing that we talked about was method. So here the difference between traditional research or traditional social sciences research and feminist research is that how method is about techniques, right? So here feminist research is about how the data is collected. It should not be just that add women and stir. Okay, it should not be just that. We'll look into the different things like later on. First, let's look into how it is different from traditional research. Second thing is it should be transformatory. Like when we are talking about the techniques, it should not just be like you're collecting data and going away from the situation, right? It should give something to the participants. It should give something. It should be the approach of feminist research should be transformation of a situation. Okay. Second thing was methodology. So how is feminist research methodology different from traditional methodology? So here, the theories which are feminist theories are also used. So how theory is approached in interpreting the gathered evidence on the studied social life. So methodology, in a research methodology, it is about how we are interpreting the data. So how we are interpreting the data through some theory, right? We have some theories based on which we are analyzing the patterns which we observe in the field. So in a feminist research, when we are interpreting the data, we are using feminist theories to research, to gather, to analyze the data that we have done, that we have gathered through feminist methods, feminist techniques of data collection. Okay. Feminist epistemology. So feminist epistemology includes women and other identity holders as knowers. So what we have historically seen is that how the researches would take place was that men would go into the field, because first of all, men would be the people who would be in education, be the researchers. So the researcher is also a man. The participants also a man. Okay. So the women in the field, like in the field of observation, were excluded as non-knowers. Okay. Like they don't know about the social life. That was the basic assumption. Might be present in many studies till now, but how feminist research approaches this problem or this lack in the traditional researches by involving women and other identities as knowers, like they know about their situation. If you have to ask about a problem, who should be asked, right? It should be the person who is suffering, right? So when you're talking about a feminist research, it involves people who, the epistemology involves people, or here we can talk about women and other identities who are also included as knowers or as agents of knowledge, right? Is there any question here in the basic understanding of feminist research methodology?
None so far.
Thanks, Adanya, for responding. So next we'll look into the debates. So there are different theorizers, right? So I would like to suggest you all to read some papers on some basic, theories that have been given by researchers, feminist researchers, so that you will get to know about some needs, because net they ask about many many researchers who have given some theory. Okay, so it is hard to remember names for me, but I would suggest you all to look into some of the researches, some of the theory papers, and look into the names and note down what they have proposed and how they have given the theories. Okay, so here in debates we'll look into first about Sandra Harding. Okay, so Sandra Harding is a critique of ad women approach. Okay, so she has given how like women's research is ignored and trivialized, and often appropriated without credit. Okay, to credit to the participants or credit to the problem itself. So the thing that Sandra Harding highlighted was about how women's contribution to research was completely ignored, even though they had contributed. Okay, so she criticized the androcentrism in researches and the sexism that exists. Okay, so all of this we have to understand that it is happening in a progressive kind of a way, like in history, like in it happens in like in the 1950s 60s, when researchers from feminist understanding analyze different kinds of situations. So here Harding has criticized about how Rosalind Franklin's work on DNA, like we have all studied about DNA, but whose name we remember the most? Like in our books, I have never remembered the name of Rosalind Franklin, but of James Watson for DNA, double helix model. But Rosalind's contribution was completely forgotten. So she also, Harding criticizes that, and she also talks about women's contribution in challenging the traditional androcentric notions. So we look into it in a different topic, under a different topic, like how how the meaning making happens, right? So when you are looking at a problem, or even in sciences, right, in biology, in chemistry, in physics, like the how it is approached is from a sexist perspective, then the meaning is completely different from how it is approached from a feminist perspective. So Harding also criticized how many researchers had used women as just inactive agents, or just as sufferers or victims. She talks about how many researchers have completely ignored how women have resisted also. Okay, so there are different things. Another thing that we have to look into is the lived experiences. The lived experiences that women have are very important in a feminist research. Okay. In a feminist research, the empirical or the theoretical understanding should come from women's experiences or experiences of those who are marginalized, right? The other concept is how empowerment can happen through a research, through a feminist research. Okay. Secondly, thirdly, new subject matter should be formed, right? How? it should be located by locating the researcher in the same plane as the observed, as the subjects. Okay, so a feminist research involves that three things. Okay, what are these three things? It should involve women's experiences, their lived experiences. It should have a transformatory approach of empowerment of the people who are the participants, to be marginalized sections or women or any other identity. Third thing is the researcher is not outside the purview of the research. Okay, when we are talking about feminist research, what are the researchers' motivations in doing that research is also a very important aspect of analysis. Okay. So one should also look into their own place, their own location as a researcher while they are doing the research. Okay, so we know about the hierarchy that exists between the researcher and the informer or the participant, right? So the researcher should be able to minimize that gap or minimize that hierarchy that exists. Okay. So therefore, the researcher should be placed in the same plane as the subject matter. Okay, so that the gaps that can happen during the observation, during the evidence gathering phase, are minimized or are just reduced. Okay, it helps the researcher in rectifying the gaps that happen due to personal bias of the researchers. So these are very important points when we are talking about a feminist research, because that is how it is different from traditional research. Okay, we always need to keep this in mind. Okay. Next thing is about objectivity. Okay, so objectivity in a research is very highly recognized quality in social sciences research as well as other sciences or arts research, right? So it is important that we understand objectivity clearly. So can somebody share what is objectivity in a research? Gokila, do you want to respond?
I think it is kind of bias in a researcher can be researcher cannot without a bias
Yeah.
to a topic
Yeah.
they are doing.
Yeah. A researcher
If
cannot.
if I'm doing one topic related to women, I will be more focused to that side. So it cannot be without bias to men's side like that.
Okay. Yeah, that is correct. But what I was asking was, what is objectivity in a traditional research? Like, what do we understand by objective view or objective understanding of a situation? What is that? Gokila, will you try again? Objectivity.
I'm thinking.
Yeah. That is objective. Himi, your main purpose of research study, that is objective. Research objective. Okay. Objectivity is not the same. Do you all understand positivism? Positivism is there in your paper 1 syllabus also. Somebody? Ananya, would you like to respond?
Astha, I mean, there is one more author called Shulamit Hertz, and she also talks about how researchers add women in stuff, and then she also questions whether research is done by women are feminist, or researches that center around the subjective experiences of women or any other marginalized communities are feminist. So she grapples with this question as well. I just wanted to put it out here.
Yeah, we are going to talk about this like in the next 10 minutes or so.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So anything about objectivity from anyone? Or positivism? Can you all do a Google search and let me know? So what do you understand by subjectivity? Anyone? Yes, please, Ananya.
So subjectivity is centered around how a person, through their experiences, understands the world. So while, for example, while some theorists talk about how things are outside of us and they are imposed on us, but subjectivity centers around the person's own experiences towards the outer world. And the researchers that try to tap into that subjectivity tries to understand how the person gives meaning to such circumstances that is happening around them. So I think that is subjectivity versus आपका positivism or objectivity, which kind of says that which looks at a very impersonal level. If I mean, looking at larger data sets or macro level phenomena that is happening. But subjectivity talks about how macro level phenomena can also affect a person in their personal experiences, and then how how a particular person is giving meaning or is making meaning out of that macro level phenomena. I think that is there.
That is true. So there are different approaches to a research. So when you are talking about objectivity or subjectivity in a research, you need to look into how you are going to the field as a researcher, how you are going to interpret the situation as a researcher. So here in subjectivity, first of all, let's talk about objectivity. When you're talking about objectivity, the basic thing is it draws from positivism that says that there is a positive truth out there in the world, in the field. There is a reality, okay, that exists out there. So positive objectivity is about the researcher should be distanced from the location of their research. Okay, they should be very objective in very objective as in very mechanized kind of mechanized. Okay, in simple terms, when they are doing a research, they should not be any person with a background, but they should just be a researcher, no other identity. Okay, but when we are talking about a feminist research, it also looks into how the researcher's own position is located in the analysis, located in the interpretation, and as well as located in the process of gathering the data. Okay. So, in a feminist research, researchers like feminist researchers have avoided objectivity. Okay, they look into the subjective experience of women who are in different locations with different identities. Okay, so sometimes many overlapping, intersecting identities. Okay, so the basic thing about subjective experience of women is that it is very different from one location to another, right? So it looks into how women's perspectives are developed. Shaista, you're not able to hear my voice. Is it better now? I think everyone else can understand or hear my voice, right? So Shaista, I would suggest, please check your mic, your phone, your own speaker. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so we were talking about subjectivity. So there are different perspectives, experiences, values, and the based on the different experiences, different viewpoints are also developed. So subjective experiences and subjective views are very important when we are talking about a feminist research. Okay. Now, next thing is reflexivity in a feminist research. It is very important for us to understand that there is no objective truth in a feminist way of understanding of research or feminist way of approaching any research problem. Okay, there is a reflexive process that should undergo, that a researcher should undergo when they are doing the research. Okay, as if can somebody talk about what is reflexivity or reflection? Anyone? Lisa, would you like to respond, please? At least let me hear your voices now.
How we are reflecting our data we collected or findings results without generalizing.
Right. So when we are talking about reflexivity in a research or in a feminist research, we are talking about indulging in our own positions. Okay, as a researcher, as a person in the field, or outside the research process. Okay, so reflexivity. Somebody has responded. Reflexivity is one of the important questions repeatedly asked in exam. Examining one's judgment, right? So, I mean, in simple terms, it's correct. Examining one's own judgment, like where we are coming from. Like when you indulge in a problem, very simple problem as why do I think the way I am thinking? Okay, so sorry. So it is a reflexive question that when you look into the problem with a continuous set of whys, you are actually reflexive. Okay, so why have I taken this particular course? Why have I taken Why do I choose this kind of a research method? Why do I actually not choose a face-to-face interview, but rather a online interview? All these whys are very important. In the same way, when you're talking about why the researcher is choosing this particular method to analyze the problem is very important. Okay, and that is reflexivity. Why we are doing it? Why is the judgment that we are actually passing on? Okay. The next thing is to not take the not the relativist approach in research. Okay. Yeah. So Harding gives another point here, that is about relativist approach. Okay. So in many times in researches, we are continuously comparing that whose ideas or whose men's versus women. That is a problem that continuously hampers the overall research. So Harding criticizes the relativist approach when we are talking about in terms of men versus women in research, in the overall process of research. So like when you're talking about only women should be asked about women's problem, or when you're talking only that men would be talking in a better way about the violence that happens. Okay, so she criticizes this kind of approach also. Okay, so what she proposes is that there are distinct experiences that women and men have. Okay, because they are located in the same society, or they are located in a place where they understand both the problem as well as the solution. Okay, so instead of taking a relativist approach, we should better focus on the knowledge that is there out in the field. Okay, so we need to understand that women's experiences should be preferred, but it should not be given that it is the only reliable source. Okay, but it is important. Okay, it's not that Harding devalues or criticizes that women criticizes women's perspectives, but she says that it should not be just the relativist approach, but rather it should be more of a inclusive thing. And knowledge should be, the way we are developing the knowledge is important. Not only about who's the knower. Okay, we should go beyond who. Okay. The next point is the researcher does not need to be a woman for it to be a feminist research. Okay, so a few minutes ago, Ananya talked about how it is not a given thing that if women are researchers, it would be a feminist research. No, it just like we know that all women cannot be feminist, all women cannot be just one identity, right? So in the same or similar way, not in the same way, but in a similar way, it is important that we understand that for a research to be a feminist research, it's not that the researcher has to be a woman or has to be a particular kind of identity, but rather their approach in the overall analysis, their approach in the interpretation of data, their approach in the collection of data should be feminist. It should come from feminist understanding of the research, not the general understanding of the research. Okay. The approaches should be so diverse. Okay, Harding says that the approaches should be so diverse that women's experiences can be visibilized in a transformative way. Okay, why? This is the basic thing about feminist research. It should be transformative. Okay, it should not just be highlighting the problem or highlighting just the knowledge that is there, but also transform it for the researched. Okay, transform it for the participants. Okay. So moving on to the next topic. Is there any question here? Should I go back to anything, or if you have any other question based on your previous knowledge? Or if you would like to discuss anything? Okay, so the time to respond is over. Because your people are not responding, I am just going on to speak. Okay, continuously. So next topic in your unit 10 is feminist method epistemology. Okay, so epistemology, do we understand? We had just discussed, right? So feminist epistemology is how there are different approaches that are taken in the research. So here in feminist epistemology, the theory of knowledge is very important, and how it is conceptualized is important. Okay, so Elizabeth Anderson defines feminist epistemology. You need to remember the names, okay? So please look into some names that are given in the question, like previous year question papers, and search about them. I mean, this is just a tip. Search about them and see what kind of theories they have given. Okay, because many times they ask like questions like this: that who has given this statement? Okay. So Elizabeth Anderson defines feminist epistemologies, okay, as a branch of naturalized social experience, social epistemology that studies the various influences of norms and constructions of gender and gendered interests by experimenting with how knowledge is produced. Okay, so Elizabeth Anderson talks about the norms and different roles that women have taken, or how the gender has shaped. Okay, how the gendered interests have been in the production of knowledge. For example, when you are talking about the how of a situation, like how this kind of a knowledge has come to the view of several people, how in the society gender roles are constructed, how the norms have been shaped. Okay, so she talks about this. She talks about feminist epistemology in those terms. Okay. So there are three important things in feminist epistemology. First is feminist empiricism. It is there in your syllabus. It's not written here, but these are important components of feminist epistemology that we are going to look into. So feminist empiricism. Feminist empiricism. Do we understand empiricism or empirical? Do we understand that as a term? Somebody please respond.
Experience or something.
I would repeat, but I would want somebody to respond. Kokila, I could not hear you properly. It seems you have responded just now.
Experience, based on experience.
Empiricism. Okay. What is empirical?
theoretical based on theories.
Theoretical and empirical, you must have heard. Huh? Do you understand empirical research? Knowledge comes from experience. Anyone else? Nalini, would you like to add something to this? Sumaya, would you like to say anything?
No, I didn't understand anything.
You did not understand anything. No, I have asked a question about what is empirical research or what is empiric understanding.
Mm.
Yeah, have you heard the term empirical?
Yeah, I heard.
Okay. So any observation on empirical research? Okay.
It is
Jyotsna,
based on an observation or experience rather than theory.
okay, right. So it could also be practical or experimental. Okay. Like
Yeah.
when we are talking about science researches, many of those researches are empirical researches when you are doing something in the field, not engaging with people's ideas, but rather their experiences of any problem. Like in sciences, when you are studying about heart disease, okay, you are gathering evidences from them,
Oh.
and you
Yeah,
are
okay.
also using experiments, like you are giving a treatment and seeing the any progress that happens. Okay. Those
Okay,
are
okay.
okay. So that kind of a research is empirical research, where the research is based on evidence that is experimented and experienced. Okay. The next thing, empiricism, right? So empiricism. Okay. Let me go back to somebody's question. I should repeat. Okay. Going back to Elizabeth Anderson, feminist epistemology. Okay, so feminist epistemology is the branch of social epistemology that studies the various influences of norms and construction of gender and gendered interests and experience in knowledge production. Okay, I understand that the definition is not very clear when you are hearing it. Okay, I'll explain it again. So here, when we are talking about the knowledge production, right? Epistemology is the theory of knowledge, right? So Anderson says that in a feminist research, the production of knowledge should come from how norms and construction of gender, like our understanding of gender. Like we know that gender is a social construction. This is one theory, right? So in a similar way, how gender and gendered interests are constructed or the notions of gender are constructed, and how norms influence the particular situation should be highlighted when you're talking about a feminist research. So here in feminist epistemology, we should look into, or one should study the various influences of norms. Okay, and also look into the influence of gender and gendered interests. Okay.
Ma'am, excuse me. What do you mean by norms?
Norms.
Yeah,
NORMs, norms. Okay.
no.
So in our society, we have seen there are different, accepted behaviors, right? There are like these are changing nowadays, but still the thing is, who cooks or who cleans. There is a set understanding in the society, right?
Yeah, okay, okay.
So those are norms. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So feminist empiricism. I'll share share a slide kind of where it is given. I'll share it later on. Okay. It clearly, it will give you the names also of people who have talked about it. So for here, I'm talking about feminist empiricism. Feminist empiricism talks about that the reality is out. If the reality is out there, and if it can be known, and the researcher, should be away from that kind of a research. Okay, the research should be, yeah. The researcher detaches themselves from the reality, then the problem that they are studying would be studied. Okay. The reality when we are studying, it should come from the researchers and the observation, but they can detach. Okay, they can be objective. Okay, but they should also manage the androcentrism that comes with when you are looking at the objective truth. Okay, in an objective view. Like for example, when you are doing some kind of a research that takes a survey kind of approach, that is quantitative approach, right? So in that place or in that kind of a research, it is important that one minimizes the challenge to feminist research because of the androcentric bias. Okay, because of the problem that could be in the ways of asking the question. For example, when you are interviewing or when you are surveying the people. Okay, so the feminist empiricism argues that the researcher can do that by detaching from the situation, but they should manage or remove the challenges that androcentrism or sexism poses by applying research methods which are more rigorous. Okay, which minimize the gap that happens. Okay. Another thing in feminist empiricism is that here the when you are observing the reality, okay, so the reality should not get contaminated, right? It should not be just that when you are talking about who is the knower, okay, so the knower may contaminate the reality, but because of our way of quantifying the data, right? Because we are quantifying the data, it can be that the knower gives some kind of an input, which because they are not understanding it in the same way as the researcher, because there are different locations. Like I am somebody who knows the definition, okay, of something, but our participant may not know. Okay, so we need to reduce that gap so that there is a understanding in the research, right? There is the participant understands it, right? So this kind of epistemology, this kind of theory of knowledge talks about or allows the feminists to work within the conventional science by advocating for a better science. Okay, like you are trying to sort of reduce the gaps that are there in traditional research, and you are giving it a feminist kind of approach, that is feminist empiricism. Okay, is there any question or should I repeat? Just give it quickly. Should I repeat? Because we are running, we are halfway through the 2 hours, but yeah, please tell me. Okay, so I move on to the next thing, that is standpoint theory. So standpoint theory. Okay. Standpoint theory. Standpoint theory argues that science does not operate apart from the social order, but is necessarily a part of it. Okay. So, like we discussed earlier, that there is no objective truth. Okay, or there is no not something as real. Okay, so when you're talking about the understandings of gender or of sex, we can also call it as, because gender is also analyzed from the understanding of how we are how our bodies are shaped, right? How our bodies are existing. So how the sex is. So that is also challenged by queer theories. So when we are talking about the standpoint theory in terms of how the knowledge is produced, okay, we are talking about feminist epistemology, and we are talking about feminist standpoint theory. So standpoint theory is about, there is about how there cannot be just one thing that is there. Okay, and objectivity is therefore reconceptualized as strong objectivity or as feminist objectivity. Okay, and here feminists have tried to kind of keep this thing in mind, that no knowledge can be value free. Okay, knowledge cannot be value free. So there is this strong objectivity that feminists have reconceptualized, and they what they mean is that one should be answerable to what they are seeing. Like as a researcher, one should become aware about where they are and how they are looking, or what we are looking at. Okay. So this point is by Haraway. Okay. The next thing is about feminist standpoint theory is about there cannot be anything that is neutral. Okay. The research can never be neutral. Okay. So all that we know is socially situated, and it is also socially analyzed. Okay, the researcher's point of view is also socially constructed. Okay, in a way. Therefore, Haraway and Harding have been, have talked about strong objectivity to become aware about what they are going to see in the research. Okay, and they approach this problem with the multiple standpoints, right? The researcher's standpoints is something that they need to be aware about. The other thing is when they are analyzing, they are also talking about approaching the research problem, or when you are talking about interpretation of the observations done in the field or in a research, it should be about the multiple standpoints that come from the observations. Okay. Or when you are talking about marginalized identities, there are different kinds of locations, there are different kinds of lived experiences. So one should always look into the different kinds of lived experiences that people have, and then talk about feminist standpoint, which could be multiple. Okay, it is not just one kind of a location. Okay. Sorry. Third thing is about how language constructs the knowledge. Okay, like when you are observing a problem in the field, there are language biases. We have seen in the, or we have come across some kind of a research that is the researcher maybe from a particular kind of knowledge background or language background, and the researched or the informants are from a different kind. So there could be some bias in the interpretation. Okay. So here in feminist epistemology, we talk about feminist social constructionism. Okay. It says that the science does not reflect the reality, but rather it creates reality. Okay. Science does not reflect or mirror reality, but it rather creates the reality. So whatever we are observing in the field or around us in the research, okay, is not reflective of a reality, but it is a part of constructing that knowledge. Okay, it is a part of that knowledge that is constructed. Okay, like all these are very much related to objectivity. That is why I asked you that whether you have understood objectivity or not. Okay, so we are talking in terms of objective truth. Okay, so again we are talking about that there is no objective truth, or the feminist understanding of constructionism is that there is no objective truth. Objective truth is impossible. Okay. Therefore, it favors pluralism, that there are multiple truths and there are multiple realities. Like wherever we are looking at it, I mean, the place we are looking at it, it is, all these are very important truths. Like one's experiences are not devalued in comparison to another's experiences. Okay, these are very important points in feminist praxis also. Like one should not devalue somebody's lived experience just because it has not happened with them, right? In a similar way, the feminist constructionism favors pluralism in terms of knowledge, in terms of theory of knowledge. Okay, so it recognizes the multiple truths that happen, that could be present, the multiple realities that could be present. Okay. Therefore, it talks about language that acts as a vehicle. Okay, vehicle in representing that reality. Okay. Yeah. So the knowledge that is present, the multiple kinds of knowledge, the multiple points of views or perspectives, the multiple lived experiences that are there, all these can be visibilized through language. Like whenever there is a problem that is there that we are going to study, there will be a language in which we are going to ask the question, the language in which we are going to report the solution, the problem, right? Like I have a problem, but if I am not able to put it to the researcher, I may have, there may be some kind of a bias that may come in the research, right? So language should act as a vehicle in representing the reality. Okay. But it also again tells that constructionism, that knowledge is not neutral. Like one's understanding of this kind of a signal could be different from somebody else, right? I am saying no in my language, okay, but in this language it could be okay, right? So it is very important to understand in this feminist epistemology that language is not neutral. So whenever you are talking about a feminist research, language is very important. It plays a very important role in how the research is uh, conceptualized, how the research is done, and how the reports are going to affect the people. Okay, it is very important. The next thing about constructionism is about the power, the power, how it is manifested. So language is power, right? Uh, have we heard about Foucault on how education is power, how knowledge is power? In a similar way, like it draws from Foucault also, that uh, when you're talking about power, its manifestation and the way it is resisted can also be studied through language. Okay. Uh, so there are many researches that talk about how uh, women, like we know about the problem without no name. We have all heard about this, right? Where in Betty Friedan's work, right? So the language to talk about a certain aspect of their life may not be known to the people, right? But it should be. I mean, it is. It could be a limitation that can come when you are when you are doing a research in a different area, right? So initially there may not there when the researches on sexual harassment were done, they would just be called as violence in terms of this or that. Okay, so because of a lack of a certain language, it was kind of overlooked, right? But now we have a different set of understanding about it, and there are different set of theory about it on how this power of knowledge, how this this power hierarchy works. So in a similar way, when you're talking about feminist epistemology, when you are engaging with a research where your observation is on how power is manifested and how it is resisted, we can do that through the study of language also. Okay. Is there any question here? Then we'll move on to the next topic. Anyone? No. Next thing is in the syllabus is about sexist and non-sexist research. Well, I think you all know about sexism and non-sexism or feminism enough. So I think you can understand from the name itself that there are problems with sexism, the problems of androcentrism, And that is why there are feminist research, right? So we need to know some names here, which are very important, like Margaret Eichler. She was a theorizer who talked about 40 different categories of sexism. Why? Because when you are doing the work in the field or doing a research, it is important that you know your own biases. So she has categorized different terms like gynocentricity, endocentricity, gender insensitivity, overgeneralization, decontextualization. So there are different types of sexism that may happen during the course of a research, right? So it is important that the researcher is aware and takes the necessary step in order to manage these biases that they may have, sexist biases that they may have. Okay. The next thing is ethnography, right? So we will talk about ethnography in terms of feminist ethnography. Do we all understand ethnography? Yeah. So ethnography is the study of people, their cultures, the customs and habits and the mutual differences that they may have, right? So there are different points of time in the academic world where ethnography developed, and when the feminist researchers came into the picture, when the feminist ethnographers came into the picture, they also gave it a feminist interpretation. So feminist ethnography has evolved from different points of time, different moments in the history, and that is how the culture, the people, the customs, and the habits have been studied. So there have been different strategies that have been used in readings of these culture, these customs and reality, or the lived experiences, or the lived the day-to-day lifestyle of people. Okay, not the lived experiences, but just I'm talking about the culture. Okay, the customs, how they have shaped. Okay, so early ethnographers took to look at the culture through women. Okay, like we talked about the how things evolve, right? So the earliest feminist researches were about how women have a better approach better approach as well as the opportunity to observe women. Okay, so Parsons says that women ethnographers have a better opportunity to learn about the culture than men because they could see it better because of their own experiences, maybe, as well as because they can engage in a better way with their informants because of their specific gender. Okay, then like here we are comparing with men. Okay, than men. The next thing about feminist ethnography is about how the relation between sex and gender have been used. Okay, so in ethnography, especially in feminist ethnography, it talks about giving voice to people, voice to the observed, right? So in a feminist ethnography, the ethnographers' understanding of gender roles and sex are very important. Okay, because when they are in the field, it is important for them also to understand and challenge this kind of a relation between this kind of understanding, like preconceived understanding they come with to the field. Okay. So what they have the like Rosaldo, what they have proposed is that gender should be understood as a device, okay, and it should not be mistaken as a reality. Okay, our body could be something, okay, but it should not be that. It should be taken as a reality or as everything. Okay. It can be the entry point. Like gender could be the entry point to look into the specific problem or to observe a culture, but gender should not be the end point, but rather it should just open different kinds of different arena of how we are looking into the field. Okay, when we are observing a culture, the customs, it should not just be that we are looking at it from a perspective of a particular gender, but rather we are using gender as a way to look into how it is shaped. Okay. For example, there have been many ethnographers that have brought different kinds of knowledges into the field, different kinds of observations of ethnographic observations, and they have shared. So a few names are Stevenson, Alice Fletcher, Catherine Donham. So I think you should see some of these researchers, ethnographers, and their work as well. Okay, you can search on Google and look into the different names. Okay, that would be very important for you because sometimes these are also asked. Okay, so is there any question, Sumaya? Somebody has raised hand. Okay, no question. Okay. Okay. How is feminism? Yeah. So feminist ethnography actually posits their, the ethnographical observation or when they are interacting in the field, how they are in the field with the view of how different cultures have shaped, and they not only look at it from the men's perspective but women's perspective. Like initially that is what happened, okay, and now it is evolving, and therefore in feminist ethnography the gender is a entry point. Like it is a basic approach, and how it is considered, in the socio-political or historical sense, how these values have shaped, how these different narratives are there, and how it is not just about gender, but we go beyond the gender. Okay, these are these are the modern understandings of it. So there are few important names of feminist ethnographic researchers who have theorized research feminist ethnography. So Parsons talked about patriarchy when you are examining the sexual inequality in the field. Okay, in a feminist ethnography, Parsons was the first one to talk about patriarchy as a location for sexual inequality. Okay, so she discussed on how patriarchy is there in the customs, how patriarchy is present in people's cultures, in their minds, and how based on that the inequality is there in our society. Okay, I hope the answer is clear, Zahid. Okay, Margaret Mead, we all know about her, right? So Margaret Mead was also one of the first ones who talked about the distinction, like when in terms of research, who talked about the distinction between sex and gender. Okay, and the next one is Gail Rubin, who proposed the idea that sex and sex gender system. Okay, and there are postmodern theories like queer theories that critique this gender essentialism. Okay, so here there are four things. First thing is patriarchy. Second thing is distinction between gender and sex. Third thing is about the idea of a gender sex system. Like there are three theories that you must have come across on of sex and gender. So, and the fourth is the critique of this gender essentialism. Like when gender essentialism is about when how our questions are all based on gender, on you know that on the assumption that one has a gender, right? One could be agender also. So here the queer theories come into picture, and queer theories have been developed as a tool to reconsider the socio-political, historical, and cultural norms, values in the light of the narratives and experiences of LGBTQIA plus groups. Okay, so all of this, we have to understand this from the point of view of different historical moments in which they have come. Okay, so ethnography and anthropology have a a basic root that comes from the observation of people in their own life. I mean, in their own location. You're not calling the research to your office or to your campus, but you're going into the field and you're observing the people, their culture, how they are living, right? How their lifestyle is. Okay. In both ethnography and in anthropology, you are going to the field and observing them. Okay. So it is, yeah. So there are these four things that feminist ethnographers develop. That is putting patriarchy as a location for or a patriarchy to examine. Okay, foregrounding patriarchy to examine the inequality in our society, as well as in the sexual inequality. Okay, the second thing is about distinction between sex and gender. Okay, like earlier understandings of feminist ethnographer or of non-feminist ethnographers would be like sex and gender being the same thing, like the body and the expression becoming the same thing. So that was second thing. Third thing that was highlighted was about the sex gender system, that sex and gender are not same, but they are interrelated but not the same, as well as these are all socially constructed, right? And the third thing is the gender essentialism, how we look into the gender of all our questions. Okay. Okay. So the next thing is, there any question? Okay. I guess there's not any question. Queer theories. We talked about queer theories as well. So it is a counter to the traditional or even of the feminist theories. Not exactly counter to feminist theories, but it challenges the very notion that gender is an essential category. Okay, so it challenges or takes a different paradigm to look into the social, the situations, the socio-political and historical and cultural norms, and highlights uh, uh, highlights that biology may not be determinative of sexuality or sexual identification. So when you are talking about this in terms of feminist research, these theories are very important. So these theories, you have also studied these in other paper, which is on feminist theories. So I think you would understand this there also. In terms of research, it is important that the researchers, when they are going into the field, they also understand the marginalization that happens because of the gender essentialism that we have in our minds as a researcher. Okay. Second important point here is that in qualitative research, the queer theories offer a practical and institutional set of voices, perspectives, and understandings. How? So when you are going to a field and observing how people with different marginalities, for example, marginality because of sexuality or of orientation, gender orientation, or of sexual orientation, how that is shaped. So there you need to understand the queer theories and then analyze the situation. Okay. Moving on to research design and methods. Research design. Do we understand research design? Anyone can respond? Yeah. Kyle, is that Kyle? Okay, okay. So can anyone respond? What is research design? Okay. Research design. Research design is the overall strategy that we have for research. Okay. So the overall strategy integrates of a research, integrates the different components that we have. Like when you talk about research, you know about the different stages that it has, right? First, you conceptualize a problem. Then you talk about how you are going to approach the problem, how you are going to observe it in the field, how you are going to look into the collection of data, how you are going to analyze that data, how you are going to interpret that data, and how you are going to report that data. So research design actually covers all of these. Okay. So in research design, it is a kind of a blueprint for collection, measurement, and analysis of data. Okay. In simple terms, we can understand it as blueprint for collection, measurement, and analysis of data. Okay. And we have also already studied about, discussed about research methods. So next is survey. Okay. So we'll talk about feminist survey research. Okay. So there have been surveys that have been conducted from a long time. And basically during the World War II, the need for surveys came in a big way. It was conducted already, but the surveys to highlight the understanding of social problems, and as a very important tool came into being after World War II. Okay. Therefore, feminist involvement in these survey methods have also been very old. Okay, so feminists like Haraway and Harding have talked about different kinds of research methods that could be made into feminist research methods, right? So they also talk about here in this, and they recognize it as a very important tool to put the problems of women into the larger observation of policymakers, of the people, like common people, who might be very important to social change towards gender equality, towards solving a particular problem maybe in the situation. So surveys are very important tools to also, and it, because it is a quantitative tool, it is very important to understand this when we are doing actually doing a field study, like post your JPF, if you are doing a kind of a survey and you're using mixed methods, it makes your research very reliable. Okay, because it is based on a large sample. Okay. So what is different in surveys done in traditional research and feminist research? Again, the mainstream research and feminist survey research progresses in a similar way. Okay, what is different is how we are exploring the research question, how we are interpreting it, and how we are actually proving or disproving our hypothesis. Okay, we know that in a survey we are doing a quantitative research, right? So we have a hypothesis in mind based on our research question, our research problem. We have hypothesis. So in our research question, it should be a feminist interest. It should focus on feminist interest, and it should also have an approach that is based on feminist understandings of research, right? So the steps are same as traditional research, like you develop a research question, you have a hypothesis, you are doing the research, you're interpreting the research, and then you're presenting the findings. Okay, but the difference is in how you are going to do the research, how you are going to do the data collection. Okay, how you're going to do the survey itself. Like you have a survey tool, you have a questionnaire. How you're going to administer that. Okay, so there are different steps in that also. We all know about developing the tool, developing the questionnaire, developing who would be our respondents, testing, I mean pre-testing it after the tool is created, and then we are collecting the data. Okay, so you all know that census is one of the very important survey that is done in India, right? So earlier, what used to happen was the surveyor would come and they would ask for the head of the household. Okay, and the head of the household would give any would be the only one who would respond to the questions of the surveyor. Okay, so they come face to face and they ask the questions, and one has to report it, right? Report the whatever is there in their family, right, in their household. So the thing is, you're asking only from the head of the household, and in most of the societies, in most of the regions in India, the head of the household is a man. Okay, so There are some biases that happen there. So, when we are talking about how the surveys are conducted in a feminist way, it is important that based on a question or based on a research question, the knower is somebody who is who really knows about the problem, right? Like for example, whether there is toilet or not for women. Okay, whether there is proper drainage available in the locality or not. Who might know? Okay, so here it is about involving the feminist approach into that particular question. Okay, so it should be asked in a way that it involves the particular locations of people who be the knower. Okay. Another important thing is about how we have developed our tool. Okay, our survey tool, survey questionnaire should be such that it is easily understood. It is not that there is hierarchy in understanding, like hierarchy in understanding, as in we have given a question which has a jargon, which has a problem that is stated in a very complex way. Okay, so that the person cannot understand. So it is difficult in that way, right? So it is important that the questionnaires are jargon free and easy to understand, and also it should be simple for everyone to understand and take the same meaning as others. Okay, it should not be that one respondent understands the question in a different way than the other. Okay, otherwise it is a difficult thing to interpret the survey. Okay, the important thing here in feminist research survey is about using the feminist tools or feminist theories when you are interpreting the data that you have gathered in a feminist way. Okay, now when you are interpreting the data that has been collected by you, it should also base your the findings should be interpreted in terms of a feminist theory. Okay. So, feminist, one of the feminists is Bieber and Yeser, who recognize that objectivity can only operate within limitation of science and personal beliefs and experiences. So, we need to really understand that when you are doing a survey, we have to go beyond those limitations. Like the feminists have criticized surveys and quantitative research because they do not highlight the particular problems of women. Therefore, this particular statement by theorists, Bieber and Yeser, is about objectivity. Okay, so they talk about they talk about how these limitations can be challenged or used to better address the problem, like the problems or the limitations that are there in traditional surveys, and using feminist approaches to minimize those, okay, or to completely omit those. Okay. Next thing is action researches in your syllabus. Yeah, in action research, like in action research, we are actually doing something in the field and observing the field, right? So in feminist action research, it is important that there is a structural change that happens I mean, you're aiming towards a structural change. I'm not saying that it should always happen the way you have it in mind, but your aim is that there should be some structural change. There should be participation from the people, so that the research, the action research, involves people, right? It is also aimed at collective action and towards building movements that could drive that change, right? So action researches are focused on amplifying the voices of the marginalized so that they can go on to, they can go on to challenge those previous, challenge those marginal experiences, and how it should be it should go beyond just research, but it should go to as a movement. Okay, it should build solidarity among the people, participants, so that a collective action is taken. Okay, therefore we can also say that an action research takes power into its own hand and tries to challenge it, and also takes a interdisciplinary approach or intersectional approach to build that solidarity and take some action against the problem, or against the inequality, or against the marginalization that is happening. Okay. The next thing is case study. Case studies talk about, like we all know about case study, I think. Like you don't have a large number of samples, but you're taking one particular location, one particular case, maybe an organization or an individual or a few individuals or a group of certain individuals with some kind of a background or a similar experience, and then you are talking about their specific experiences, right? So in a case study, feminist case study, the orientation towards research is a feminist one. Okay, and it differs into how and what we are going to present in our case. Okay, so in a feminist case study, it analyzes from the feminist perspective and draws from the feminist theory the same traditional case study, and it takes the feminist approach to it. Okay, it's very simple to understand. Okay. The next thing is quantitative versus qualitative research. Okay, so is there any question here? Okay, so quantitative and qualitative research. So so far you must have prepared something on quantitative and qualitative research in the other paper. Here we are talking about feminist research methods. So we'll restrict our this lecture to only those feminist research. Okay, there are different methods of quantitative and qualitative research, right? So in terms of feminist research, quantitative method is like surveys. There could be other qualitative researches, like it is not given here in this, but there are many qualitative researches like in-depth interviews that are conducted, qualitative methods, like we're talking about methods here. Okay, so yeah, so qualitative researches involve a non-numerical, okay, non-numerical data. Yes, quantitative researches involve numerical data. Okay, you are gathering the evidence and quantifying it. Okay, in some way. Okay. Qualitative data can also be quantified when you are giving some value to it, like some numerical value to it. Okay, but that is the basic critique here, that critique of quantitative. Okay, feminists talk about the subjective truth, right? So, from a subjective experiences of women, it is important that we don't only talk about numbers, but rather the specific aspects of lived experiences. Okay, specific aspects of how that particular problem is conceptualized, experienced, and reported and observed. Okay, so qualitative research and quantitative research are very important in our when we are going to do a research, like during our PhD or something. The usage of numbers and predefined categories in quantitative research. Okay, these are not value free, right? These could have some hierarchies. These could have, when we are giving a number 1 and 0 to a particular observation. Okay, we have asked the native place. Okay, we have asked somebody that where they come from, and we have given it as 1, 2, 3, 4, up to the number of states or number of regions that are there. Okay, and we are, when you are going to analyze it, we are going to quantify it, right? So this situation in our data collection, quantitative data collection, actually reduces how we are. I mean, reduces the the reach of a participant. Like they may have a subjective answer to some question, but just because there is a given scope of reporting, they cannot report, right? So that is what feminists have critiqued. Okay, because there are predefined categories in which the person's backgrounds are quantified. Okay, and therefore nuanced information. Okay, like I have lived in different places. Okay, so I may have a understanding about my native place as none or many. Okay, but because the question is just asking my native place and is giving me the particular 1, 2, 3, whatever number is given. So I'm not able to say that I don't think that I belong to any particular state, right? So that is a limitation in a research. Similar way, there could be other questions which are limited. So the nuanced, like my conceptualization of myself as a citizen is not visible in a research when I am going to put only a particular state. Okay. Therefore, it overlooks actually the nuanced information that a person could be providing in the research. Okay. Another thing that feminist researchers have criticized or critiqued is how the researcher decides what the information is going to be, or what kind of information the knower is going to give, knower is going to provide to the research. Okay, so feminists have criticized this also. Therefore, they suggest that in terms of academic observations, it is not that one only criticizes, but rather one talks about how these are a problem and puts up a solution, right? So here, the researchers, feminist researchers, have also talked about how many open-ended responses can be, can be beneficial in terms of collection of data, and then we can quantify it also. So, giving fill in the blanks or giving a kind of open-ended question to which somebody can answer, even in a survey. Okay, it's very important. Or asking, questions which are not, limited or not closed, but give the opportunity for a person to report something from their experiences. Okay, so they have critiqued the feminist, the quantitative researchers, and why they favor qualitative research is because there are different categories based on which the problem can be analyzed. Okay, like different set of knowledges, different set of realities. So that is why feminists favor the multidimensional approach that is actually possible in a qualitative research. Okay. And because it is also about giving voice to the marginalized communities, therefore, the favor towards qualitative research is also because it gives the freedom. It gives the freedom to respond with the nuanced understandings of one's experiences. Okay. The feminists have the research, the overall interest of a researcher is understanding and visibilizing the problem of the marginalized communities. That is why it is important that the participants have certain power to report their own situation, right? So this is a very important point. And also we understand that feminists give value to how the perceptions are shaped, right? So it is important to also know how the perceptions are there in the minds of a particular knower, right? So it is important that it is observed in a qualitative way rather than in a quantitative way, because perception is not something that is easily quantified, right? We can have certain tools to understand the perceptions, but in itself it cannot be quantified, right? So, but still, there are many advantages that quantitative researchers do have, and as researchers in women's studies, it is important that we take necessary interest in quantitative researches, because many times what happens is that you are doing a research which is qualitative, okay, but it cannot go into the policy level changes that should happen, because the overall aim is to visualize the problem and give a solution, right? So when you are visualizing the problem in a quantitative way, it is more, it has a larger reach to the policy makers, to the legislatures, legislature, because of the numbers, right? Because the numbers speak for itself. When I am giving you a data which is numerical, you know that the problem is because of this high level of percentage. Okay. But when I am going to give you that, okay, this is a particular problem that women face every day. Okay, and I am not giving you any kind of kind of numerical or percentage data. Okay, or a ratio data. Okay, we know that every 1 out of 3 women have faced some kind of violence in their life, right? So this number gives or speaks for itself. Okay, I don't need to say that somebody or this particular researcher has observed that this is what happens. I don't need to give a larger explanation to it, right? But when somebody is going to address that problem, they will look into the qualitative data that I have collected based on how that problem is happening, how that problem is faced by the particular group whose problem we are going to observe through a policy, right? So this number is very important. It also silences the claims, okay, the claims that say that because you are a woman, you have this view, okay, because you are a feminist. Like we know the tag that is given to scholars who study like women's studies or feminists or gender studies, that you are a feminist, you would be of this view, right? So so when you have a number in your in your research, it speaks for itself. Therefore it silences those claims that say that you have a political agenda that favors women, that favors a particular kind of political party or a political theory. Okay, so you have a number. So it is it is speaking for itself. The next thing is when we are talking in terms of numbers, it gains attention. Okay, because it is short. To say like the percentage of women who are in the workforce, in the workforce is a certain number. So we know that this is a limited number, right? So it visibilizes and gains attention of the people, and therefore based on our claims, based on the researchers' claim, changes at the policy level can happen. I'll just take a few minutes, like 3 minutes. And quantitative research is also easy to communicate. Okay. And it helps in determining the course of action when the problem is going to be addressed. Okay. And since the data is gathered from large samples, it can be easily generalized. So it is very helpful that feminist perspectives are visibilized and generalized through a quantitative research. Okay. Therefore, it can be more inclusive and can address the problem in a better way. Okay. I am done. Kyle?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Asta Priyadarshini, for today's session. Actually, it was very quite easy to understandable and elaborative session. We have almost covered all the topics in the chapter in a very what to say, in a very easy and understandable way. Very patiently you are explaining everything. Thank you so much for that and giving your time again. We are thankful for that for you today.